The reason the reason that we have to stop with the crisis mentality is because crisis mentality leads people to the belief that harsh, sometimes evil action is necessary. And sitting around in a place like Los Angeles while the sun streams through the big windows and everybody is eating their lobster, I had a Coke, while everybody is doing that, it occurs to you that the more we think that our neighbors are our enemies, the more likely we are to start anticipating tactics that are bad. So the shooting that happened in Maryland has nothing to do with President Trump. But I don't think it's questionable that the temperature in the country has risen to a certain extent. I'm trying to be reflective about this as I possibly can and honest with you. I think the temperature in the country has risen to a level that is unsustainable. And I think it's based on nearly nothing. I think our political differences matter an awful lot. I think politics matter an awful lot. I think our rights matter an awful lot. And I think that some of our rights are at crisis point in terms of our defense of those rights. But I don't think that we are at the point where Americans are ready to put their bodies on the line, as Michael Moore says, that it's time to see this as a civil war in any real way. And there may be an intellectual civil war going on, but that intellectual civil war has been going on for generations in the United States. Maybe it's a little worse now than it was any time since 1960s, but I don't buy into the idea that this is a time that is deserving of the kind of vitriol and insanity that we are seeing. And it's being promulgated by people on both sides, but particularly on the left right now. Because what the left is doing is they're doing what Michael Moore does, which is, I love civility. Civility is great, but I can't be civil with these evil Republicans, so civility must end. Maxine Waters is a case in point of this. So Maxine Waters has now said, the representative who said just earlier this week that there should be mob justice against a bunch of people going to gas stations if you disagree with them. She said on Thursday she's seen an increase in threats since she made controversial comments encouraging protesters to heckle and harass members of Trump's cabinet in public spaces. She said that she got threatening messages and hostile mail at her offices. She canceled 2 scheduled appearances in Alabama and Texas. She said she got 1 very serious death threat on Monday from an individual in Texas. And she says, as the president has continued to lie and falsely claim that I encouraged people to assault his supporters while also offering a veiled threat that I should be careful, even more individuals are leaving threatening messages and sending hostile mail to my office. I mean, this is indicative of the way that our politics is working right now. Maxine Waters doesn't like when anybody attempts to assault her because no one would like that because it's terrible stuff. But then she'll go out and encourage people to assault people at gas stations. And she did encourage people to assault people at gas stations. The word assault, by the way, does not mean battery. Right? In the legal terminology, she encouraged people to get in people's faces at gas stations and threaten them. Okay, that is not battery. Battery is when I hit you. Assault is when I threaten you. She did encourage that. There's no question she encouraged that. And she felt okay encouraging that because it was somebody on the other side. So in other words, everybody is in favor of civility as long as it applies to people on their own side, but nobody is in favor of civility when it's applied to people on the other side. And the reality is that we live in the most civil of times. Violence in the United States is at 50-year lows. It is. The level of vitriol may be at a 50-year high, but violence in the United States is at a 50-year low. We're living in a pretty paradisical situation. The economy is doing great. There is no excuse for this level of insanity in our current politics. And yet, everybody continues to go insane. And that's only being exacerbated, of course, by the situation with the Supreme Court. Because now that Justice Kennedy has stepped down, the left is fully convinced that the right is coming for everything that they hold dear. Not understanding, of course, how the Supreme Court works in the first place, having used the Supreme Court as the tool of their leftist politics for nigh on 80 years at this point. The Democrats are now firmly convinced that the Republicans are going to come in, they're going to swoop in with the Supreme Court at their behest, and they're going to run roughshod over everybody's rights, and we'll be living in a Nazi state. This kind of insane, over-the-top talk is not good for the country. And again, I think there are a lot of people in the country who right now feel justified in being uncivil. Incivility can bleed into violence. I'm not going to blame people who are uncivil for violence, but I will say that when you raise the temperature every so often, you're going to get the pot boiling over. Right? When the temperature is room temperature in the pot, it doesn't boil over ever. When the temperature is a little bit high and then you put the lid on, then it is more likely that the pot is going to boil over. I think that the likelihood the pot is going to boil over right now is a lot higher than it has been in the past, and there is no real excuse for it.